The numbers are continuing to go in the wrong direction, and restrictions are being reimposed in states such as Florida and Texas, right? So how has the reaction been today?
I think, a lot of people are looking at this with horror, especially when you look at what's happening in the rest of the world, where case numbers have been largely trending downward, at least in the places that got hit hard early. We had been given first this, 2-month period to prepare for the virus. And then again, these lockdowns were supposed to be used to prepare health systems and also get tracing and testing systems in place. In a lot of places, that just hasn't happened. What you're seeing is that over the last month or so, places particularly in the Sun Belt and the South just opened up as if nothing had happened. And what we're seeing is a return to what seems like the bad old days of March, at least here in New York City.
Well, I mean, you had those pictures that emerged, Alex, a few weeks ago now, and people just didn't really, well, from where I am, it didn't seem as though they took it very seriously, especially in Florida. You had thousands of people that were crammed on beaches and they were going to bars and they just weren't really worried about it. And this is while you had that death toll in your state of New York that was just getting out of control at that point. So you guys are quite aware of how dangerous all of this is, but it was kind of falling on deaf ears in the South, like you said.
Yeah, I think that there's always been this problem, which is that deaths lag behind cases. And one of the other things that's exacerbated this is that political leaders, notably the president, but also governors in a number of Republican states, have acted as if this isn't true and that even rising caseloads are not a sign of danger. What we're seeing now, I think, is partly the result of that kind of rhetoric, where people were being encouraged to disregard information that suggested that the situation in places like Arizona, Texas, and Florida was indeed quite dire.
You just mentioned leadership, and there is, of course, the election taking place in November. So many polls, and I guess you've got to treat polls with caution given what happened 4 years ago. No one really predicted that, or very few people predicted that Donald Trump would actually win and beat Hillary Clinton. Now the polls suggest that Joe Biden is going to win, but it seems as though there's something a bit different this time, because just about all the polls are indicating that Trump might have a tough time holding on.
I guess the caveat there is that if the election was held at this point in 1988, then Michael Dukakis would be president. Still quite a long way to go in our interminable election season. But I do think there is one big difference here, which is that if you look at this period in 2016, both candidates were despised by a large portion of the electorate. And that, I think, was a key part of Trump winning, that along with Hillary Clinton's various issues with the FBI. And you just don't see that right now with Biden. His lead is larger. It's about 8 or 9 points, whereas Clinton's was at 1.5. But also, he doesn't have the same vulnerabilities. Trump has tried to find these, but so far you aren't seeing much.
Well, I mean, but isn't it true that Joe Biden is a weak candidate, for the Democrats? He's not an impressive campaigner, but all he has to do is just kind of hang in there this time and just wait for Donald Trump to make mistakes, and that might be enough to see him over the line.
His entire candidacy is based around being an exit ramp. There isn't much of a plan for 2020, although some advisors are 2021, excuse me. Although some advisors are pushing for a kind of new deal, but I think most people want him to stay in the basement right now. Trump can just go out and retweet people saying white power and all this other stuff. And Biden can sit back and just represent a return to quote unquote normalcy.